All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling microscopic colitis.
Sounds good.
We've got a ton of info from you, a bunch of different sources you've been looking at,
Okay.
and we're going to try to put it all together so
Mm.
that you walk away with a much clearer picture of microscopic colitis.
So often when we think about our digestion, we think about our stomachs, but
Right.
your colon plays a huge role too.
Oh, yeah.
It's really like a really efficient recycling center in there.
Oh, okay. How so?
Well, your colon's main job is to absorb water from the food that you've digested,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever's left over, well, it gets turned into, poop.
Okay, makes sense. So with microscopic colitis, something goes wrong with that process.
Exactly. And the tricky thing about microscopic colitis, unlike some other gut problems,
Mm-hmm.
you can't always see the inflammation just by looking at the colon. You need
Okay.
a microscope to see it.
Interesting. So it's like hidden inflammation.
Yeah.
And that's probably why it took doctors so long to even figure out it was a thing.
Exactly. And because they need a microscope to see it, that's where the name microscopic colitis comes from.
Okay.
Now, there are actually two different types,
Okay.
collagenous colitis and lymphocytic colitis.
Okay, two different types. Now,
Yeah.
I'm a little confused.
Okay, don't worry. It's not as complicated as it sounds.
All right.
Think of it this way. Collagenous colitis is when there's like a thicker layer of collagen in your colon,
Okay.
and lymphocytic colitis is when you've got more lymphocytes,
Hmm.
which are a type of white blood cell kind of hanging out in there.
Okay, so two slightly different versions of the same problem?
Yeah, exactly. And here's what's important for you. They both cause the same symptoms,
Oh.
and they're treated the same way.
Gotcha.
So whether your doctor says it's collagenous or lymphocytic, it doesn't really change how you manage it.
Okay, that makes me feel better. So let's talk symptoms. What are we looking out for?
The most common and often the most troublesome symptom is chronic watery diarrhea.
Okay.
And it can be pretty frequent, sometimes up to 15 times a day. Oh, wow, 15 times a day. That sounds awful.
It can be. And unlike some other conditions like IBS,
Mm-hmm.
which tend to settle down at night, microscopic colitis can cause diarrhea even when you're sleeping.
Oh, wow, so it doesn't let up.
Unfortunately not.
And what else besides the diarrhea?
Well, often there's a feeling of urgency, like you got to go right now.
Right.
You might have cramping, bloating, even some nausea.
It sounds miserable, honestly.
Yeah.
I can imagine people will be hesitant to even leave the house.
You're right. It can have a big impact on your life.
Yeah.
Some people might even avoid eating because they're so worried about triggering another episode.
Oh, that makes sense. So who is most likely to develop microscopic colitis?
It's more common in older adults,
Okay.
especially if they've been dealing with chronic diarrhea.
So age is definitely a factor.
Yeah.
Anything else that would increase someone's risk?
Women are about 3 times more likely to develop it than men.
Oh, wow.
And while most people are diagnosed between 50 and 70, about 25% are diagnosed before 45. Okay, so it's not strictly an older person problem.
Not at all. And one more thing. Having another autoimmune disorder,
Okay.
especially celiac disease, significantly increases your risk.
Interesting.
In fact, people with celiac disease are 70 times more likely to develop microscopic colitis.
70 times. That's a huge jump. There's something going on there.
Right. It's fascinating how all these things are interconnected.
Yeah.
But when it comes to what exactly causes microscopic colitis,
Yeah.
well, that's still a bit of a mystery.
Okay, a medical mystery. So what do we know so far?
It seems to be like a combination of factors.
Okay.
Your genes, your environment, and how your immune system reacts.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it like this. Your genes might make you predisposed,
Right.
but then something in your environment or a trigger sets it off.
Like a perfect storm.
Exactly. Your sources mention some possible triggers, like certain medications.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Things like NSAIDs, some antidepressants,
Mhm.
medications that reduce stomach acid.
Right.
And smoking also came up a lot.
Yeah, smoking was a big one.
Yeah, and it definitely seems to worsen symptoms in people who are prone to it.
Okay.
But it's important to remember these things don't necessarily cause the condition.
Right.
They can make it worse if you're already susceptible.
So it's like having a sensitive stomach. Some things just irritate it more than others.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay.
And, there's some really interesting research going on about the role of the gut microbiome.
Oh, yes. I was hoping we'd get to that.
All those tiny bacteria that live in our intestines.
Tell me everything.
Well, it seems that people with microscopic colitis often have different types and amounts of bacteria in their gut
Okay.
compared to people without it.
So their gut bacteria is sort of out of whack.
Exactly. And researchers are trying to figure out if those differences in bacteria might actually contribute to developing the condition,
Okay.
or if changing the gut microbiome could potentially help with symptoms.
It's so interesting. It's like a whole new frontier in medicine, understanding how these tiny organisms can have such a big impact on our health.
It really is. And who knows what amazing discoveries are just around the corner.
Right.
But for now, let's talk about how microscopic colitis is diagnosed.
Okay.
It usually starts with a conversation.
Okay.
Your doctor's going to ask you about your symptoms, your medical history.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to want to get a clear picture of what's been going on.
Right.
They'll likely order some blood tests to rule out other conditions and
Oh.
stool tests to check for infections.
So it's a process of elimination.
Yes, exactly. But the most important test for diagnosing microscopic colitis is a colonoscopy.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So during a colonoscopy, the doctor uses a long, flexible tube with a camera on the end to look inside your colon.
Okay.
And they'll also take small tissue samples
Okay.
called biopsies
Mm-hmm.
from different parts of your colon
And why do they take biopsies?
because the inflammation can be patchy,
Okay.
meaning it only shows up in certain areas.
Right.
Taking multiple biopsies helps ensure they don't miss anything.
So it's like a detective searching for clues.
Yes.
Okay.
They examine those biopsies under a microscope,
Right.
and they can see the specific changes that confirm a diagnosis of microscopic colitis.
All right. So let's say we've been through all that. We've got the diagnosis. Now what? What are the treatment options?
The good news is there are several ways to manage microscopic colitis.
Okay.
Treatment usually starts with the simplest approaches and then gets more intensive if needed.
So starting small and working your way up.
Exactly. One of the first things your doctor will likely recommend is trying to identify and eliminate any potential triggers.
Like those medications and the smoking we were talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have an honest conversation with your doctor about any medications you're taking,
Hmm.
especially if you're on NSAIDs, antidepressants, or acid reducers. And if you smoke, quitting is truly one of the best things you can do for your overall health,
Of course.
including managing microscopic colitis.
Makes sense. It's like take away the things that are poking the bear, so to speak.
Yeah,
Are there any other lifestyle changes that can help?
absolutely. Dietary changes can make a big difference.
Okay.
You might have heard of the low FOD MAP diet.
Oh, yeah, that's a popular one.
It limits certain types of carbohydrates that are known to be hard to digest
Right.
and can trigger digestive problems.
So it's like giving your gut a break from things that might be bothering it.
Precisely. It's not a cure,
Right.
but it can really help reduce symptoms for a lot of people.
It's good to have options.
Yeah.
So these lifestyle changes, they can make a real difference.
Yeah.
But what if those changes aren't enough?
Okay.
Are there medications that can help?
Definitely, if lifestyle changes alone don't provide enough relief,
Hmm.
your doctor might recommend over-the-counter antidiarrheal medications,
Okay.
like loperamide.
Loperamide. Okay. And is that safe to take long term?
Generally, yes, it can be very effective in reducing the frequency and urgency of diarrhea.
Right.
Always a good idea to talk to your doctor about the right dosage and any potential side effects.
Of course. Better safe than sorry.
Right.
So loperamide is an option. Are there prescription medications specifically for microscopic colitis?
Absolutely. The most effective prescription medication is budesonide.
Budesonide. Okay, that one's new to me.
It's a type of steroid,
Okay.
but it's different from the steroids you might think of for athletes or bodybuilding.
Right.
Budesonide is specifically designed to target inflammation in the gut.
So it goes straight to the source.
Exactly. And because it's targeted, it tends to have fewer side effects than traditional steroids.
That's good.
Yeah.
How is budesonide usually taken?
Typically, it's a 9 milligram daily dose taken for up to 8 weeks. And then your doctor will gradually reduce the dose, which is called tapering.
Okay.
A lot of people see improvement in their symptoms within just a few weeks of starting it.
That's good to hear. What if budesonide isn't an option for someone? Maybe due to cost or insurance coverage.
Right?
Are there other alternatives?
There are, believe it or not, Pepto-Bismol can actually be really effective.
Really? Pepto-Bismol, the pink stuff.
Yep, that's the one. It might seem surprising,
Yeah.
but it's well tolerated and can really help with microscopic colitis symptoms.
Wow, that's good to know.
Yeah, the only thing to be aware of is that it can temporarily turn your stool black,
Oh.
which can be a little alarming the first time you see it,
Right.
but it's completely harmless.
I guess it's a small price to pay for some relief.
Yeah.
So we've got loperamide, budesonide, even Pepto-Bismol. Are there any other treatment options?
Yeah, if those aren't doing the trick, there are a few other things your doctor might consider, like bile acid binders, other anti-inflammatory medications.
Mm-hmm.
In severe cases, they might even recommend biologics,
Okay.
which are a type of medication that targets specific parts of the immune system.
So there's a whole arsenal of tools they can use to help manage microscopic colitis.
Exactly. And the most important thing is to work closely with your doctor
Yeah.
to find the treatment plan that's right for you.
Everyone's different. What works for one might not work for another.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot about diagnosis and treatment,
We have.
but what about living with microscopic colitis on a day-to-day basis?
That's a great question. It's a chronic condition,
Right.
meaning it's ongoing.
Yeah.
So how does that affect daily life?
Well, let's start with the good news. Microscopic colitis isn't life-threatening,
Okay.
and it doesn't increase your risk of colon cancer.
Okay, that's a huge relief.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll put a lot of people's minds at ease.
With the right treatment and some lifestyle adjustments,
Mm-hmm.
most people with microscopic colitis can manage their symptoms pretty well
Okay.
and live full and active lives.
That's really encouraging to hear. I imagine there are still challenges, though.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some things that people can do to make living with it a little easier?
Well, staying hydrated is crucial,
Right.
especially during flare-ups when diarrhea is more severe.
Right. Especially important then you're losing fluids.
Another helpful tip is to keep a symptom diary.
A diary.
Yeah.
Like, dear diary, today I had diarrhea 5 times.
Well, not quite that detailed, but you get the idea.
Okay.
Noting down what you eat, when you experience symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
any other relevant details
Yeah.
that can help you and your doctor identify potential triggers
Okay.
and track how well different treatments are working.
So you're like your own health detective.
Exactly. And
Yep.
don't underestimate the emotional impact of living with a chronic condition.
Right. It's not just physical, it's mental and emotional, too.
Absolutely. The unpredictable nature of microscopic colitis can make people anxious
Right.
about going out,
Of course.
participating in social activities.
Totally understandable.
It's not easy to deal with. And that's why it's so important to talk to your doctor about any anxieties you're experiencing
Uh-huh.
or ways the condition is impacting your quality of life.
So they can offer support and adjust the treatment plan.
Exactly.
What if you need more than just your doctor's support?
Well, there are support groups
Right.
and online communities where you can connect with other people going through the same thing.
Oh, so you can swap stories and tips.
Yeah.
Know that you're not alone.
Exactly. And all of this is happening while research into microscopic colitis is moving forward
Yeah.
at a rapid pace.
Let's dig into that research a little bit.
Okay.
What are scientists focusing on these days?
One area of intense research is looking at whether probiotics could help manage microscopic colitis.
Probiotics, like the yogurts with live cultures and stuff?
Yes, probiotics are basically good bacteria that can help balance out the gut microbiome.
Okay.
Researchers are trying to figure out if taking specific probiotics might reduce symptoms
Mm-hmm.
or even prevent flare-ups.
That would be great. Just pop a pill and you're good to go.
Right, it would be a game changer, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay.
Research is still in its early stages, so we need more studies
Right.
to confirm their effectiveness, figure out the best strains,
Fix them.
the dosages.
So a wait-and-see approach for now.
Yeah, but it's definitely an area to watch closely.
Okay, I'm adding that to my list.
Okay.
Probiotics for microscopic colitis.
And speaking of cutting-edge research, there's also growing interest in fecal microbiota transplantation for microscopic colitis.
Fecal what? That sounds intense.
I know, right? It's not the most glamorous treatment,
Yeah.
but for people with severe microscopic colitis that hasn't responded to other treatments, it could be a game changer.
All right, I'm all ears. How does it work?
Essentially, it involves transferring fecal matter from a healthy donor into the gut of someone with microscopic colitis.
Oh, so you're giving them a healthy dose of someone else's gut bacteria.
Exactly. The goal is to repopulate their gut with a diverse and healthy mix of bacteria.
So it's like a total reboot of the gut microbiome.
Exactly. And early studies suggest it might be effective in some cases.
Wow.
But we need more research to confirm its safety and long-term benefits.
It's amazing to think that something as seemingly simple as changing the bacteria in our gut could have such a profound impact on our health.
It really is. It highlights the incredible complexity of the human body
Yeah.
and the interconnectedness of all its systems.
I know, it's wild.
Yeah. And it really underscores how much we still don't know about the gut microbiome.
It's like a whole secret world
It is.
living inside of us.
It is like a whole ecosystem in our intestines, and we're just starting to figure it all out.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing to think these tiny bacteria can play such a big role in our overall health,
Absolutely.
even in something like microscopic colitis.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to fecal microbiota transplantation,
Right.
which we briefly touched on earlier.
Okay.
It might sound a little out there,
It does.
but it's a really promising area of research.
Okay, I'll admit the whole fecal transplant thing does sound a little strange at first,
Sure.
but you're saying it could be a real breakthrough for people with microscopic colitis.
It really could be, especially for those who haven't had success with other treatments.
Okay.
And the basic idea is actually pretty simple.
Okay.
You take fecal matter from a healthy donor
Mm-hmm.
and transplant it into the gut of someone with microscopic colitis.
Okay, so you're basically giving them a healthy dose of someone else's gut bacteria.
Exactly. The goal is to repopulate their gut with a diverse and balanced mix of microbes. Kind of like hitting the reset button on their gut microbiome.
That's pretty amazing. Is it like a one-time thing, or do people need multiple transplants?
You know, it can vary depending on the individual and how severe their condition is.
Okay.
Sometimes a single transplant's enough to make a difference,
Wow.
while others might require a series of transplants.
Okay, makes sense. So it's like any medical treatment, it needs to be tailored to the individual.
Right.
But is it safe?
That's a great question.
I mean, you're introducing foreign bacteria into someone's body.
Right. And safety is always a top priority with any medical procedure.
Of course.
And researchers are really working hard to ensure that FMT is as safe and effective as possible.
Okay, so they're being very cautious.
Absolutely. Donors are carefully screened for any infectious diseases,
Right.
other health problems, and the fecal matter is processed to remove any harmful components.
So it's not just a random person's poop being thrown in there.
No,
There's real science behind it.
there is real science behind it.
Okay, good.
And you know what else is exciting?
What?
Researchers are also looking into other ways to manipulate the gut microbiome,
Oh, right.
like using specifically engineered probiotics,
Okay.
or even developing targeted therapies that can selectively promote the growth of beneficial bacteria.
Wow, so it sounds like we're on the cusp of a whole new era in treating digestive disorders,
I think so.
like microscopic colitis.
It really does feel that way.
That's really exciting.
As our understanding of the gut microbiome grows, we can expect to see even more innovative treatments emerge.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about in terms of the gut microbiome and microscopic colitis?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the gut microbiome is a key player in our digestive health.
Okay.
And research in this area is moving incredibly fast.
So it's not just about what we eat. It's also about the trillions of tiny organisms that live inside of us.
Exactly. And for people with microscopic colitis, understanding the gut microbiome and how it can be influenced could be crucial for managing their condition
Okay.
and improving their quality of life.
It's nice to know that there are things that people can do
Right.
to potentially impact their gut health.
Absolutely. It's not about feeling powerless
Right.
in the face of a chronic condition.
Okay.
It's about working with your doctor, exploring all the available options,
Yeah.
and finding what works best for you.
I love that perspective. So let's switch gears a bit and talk about the emotional side of living with microscopic colitis.
Sure.
We touched on it a little bit earlier,
We did.
but I think it deserves a little bit of a deeper dive.
I agree. It's one thing to understand the physical symptoms,
Right.
but the emotional and social impact of this condition can be pretty significant.
Exactly. You mentioned anxiety earlier. And I can imagine that having unpredictable diarrhea
Yeah.
would make anyone nervous about going out in public.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very common concern. The
Yeah.
fear of having an accident can be debilitating for some people.
Wow.
And lead them to avoid social gatherings, travel, even just leaving the house.
So it can really limit people's lives.
It can.
What can be done to help with that anxiety?
Well, the first step is to talk to your doctor about it.
Okay.
They can help you identify any underlying anxieties or fears, recommend coping strategies,
Right.
even refer you to a mental health professional if needed.
Okay, so it's important to acknowledge that anxiety is a real part of this experience.
It is, and it's not just about managing anxiety.
Okay.
It's about finding ways to cope with the overall emotional toll.
Right, because it's not just physical. It affects people mentally and emotionally, too.
Exactly. People with microscopic colitis might experience feelings of frustration, isolation,
Right.
or even depression.
Yeah,
It's important to remember that you're not alone in these feelings,
of course.
and there is support available.
And speaking of support, you mentioned support groups and online communities earlier.
Right.
Can you tell us more about those?
Yeah, support groups, both online and in person, can be so valuable for people with microscopic colitis.
Yeah.
They provide a safe and understanding space to connect with others who are going through the same thing.
Right.
Share experiences, offer advice,
Right.
and just know that you're not alone.
Yeah, it's like a community of people who get it,
It is.
who understand the challenges, and can offer encouragement and support.
Exactly. And it's not just about getting support from others.
Right.
It's about giving back and supporting others in return.
That's nice.
Sharing your own experiences and knowledge can help other people feel less isolated and more hopeful.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It's like a circle of support.
I love that.
Everyone helping each other through the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And, sometimes just talking about it can make a world of difference.
Sure.
Whether it's with a friend, family member, a therapist, or a fellow microscopic colitis warrior.
Yeah,
Expressing your feelings and getting support can make a huge impact
absolutely.
on your overall well-being.
So it's not just about treating the physical symptoms. It's also about taking care of your emotional and mental health.
It really is, and there are so many resources available to help you do just that. The Center for Digestive Health and Nutrition, for example, offers a wealth of information and support for people with digestive disorders.
They have a fantastic website
They do.
and social media presence.
They do.
They're a great place to start.
There's one more area I want to touch on before we wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
The potential connection between microscopic colitis and other autoimmune disorders.
Right. You mentioned earlier that people with celiac disease have a much higher risk
They do.
of developing microscopic colitis.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, that's one of the big questions researchers are trying to answer.
Okay.
It seems that having one autoimmune disorder can increase your risk of developing others, but we don't fully understand why.
So it's like a domino effect. One autoimmune condition sort of triggers another.
It's possible some researchers believe that there might be shared genetic factors
Right.
or environmental triggers that contribute to the development of multiple autoimmune disorders.
Okay, so if your immune system is already a little wonky,
Yeah,
it might be more susceptible to other problems.
exactly. And there's also a growing body of research looking at the role of, you guessed it, the gut microbiome.
The gut microbiome again.
Yeah.
So the bacteria in our gut might actually be influencing our immune system
Right.
and contributing to these conditions.
Potentially, it's a complex and fascinating area of research.
It is.
We're just scratching the surface of what we know.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a lot more to learn about microscopic colitis
Absolutely.
and its potential connections to other autoimmune disorders.
There is.
But it's good to know that research is advancing,
It is.
that we're learning more every day.
Exactly. And for people with microscopic colitis,
just
knowing that researchers are actively investigating the causes and potential treatments
Right.
can be very reassuring.
It's like knowing you've got a team of brilliant minds working behind the scenes, trying to help you feel better.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And we want to emphasize that it's important to stay informed and engaged in your own healthcare journey.
Absolutely.
Don't just sit back and wait for answers. Be proactive.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
Advocate for your needs.
Exactly. Talk to your doctor. Do your research. Connect with others who are going through the same thing.
It's all about being empowered,
It is.
taking control of your health.
Absolutely. And remember, even though microscopic colitis is a chronic condition, it doesn't have to define you
Right.
with the right knowledge,
Okay.
support. In treatment, you can still live a full and meaningful life.
What are some key things that people should be talking to their doctor about when it comes to microscopic colitis?
Okay, so first and foremost, be honest and open about your symptoms.
Okay.
Don't downplay anything. Don't feel embarrassed
Right.
to talk about diarrhea or other digestive issues.
Yeah. No need to be shy.
Your doctor has heard it all before,
Right.
and they really need to have a clear picture of what you're experiencing to give you the best care.
The more information, the better.
Exactly. And don't hesitate to ask questions. If you don't understand something or you're curious about a specific treatment option, just ask your doctors there to help you make those informed decisions about your health.
It's about being an active participant
Yeah.
in your healthcare
Yes, exactly.
and not just a passive recipient.
And remember, if a particular medication's not working,
Right.
or if you're having trouble with the dietary changes,
Mm-hmm.
let your doctor know. There are a lot of different ways to manage microscopic colitis.
Right.
And they can work with you to find a plan that really fits your needs and preferences.
It's like finding the right key to fit the lock.
Exactly.
It's got to be the right one. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
we want to leave you with a message of hope and empowerment.
Yes.
Even though microscopic colitis is a chronic condition,
Right.
it doesn't have to define you or control your life.
It doesn't.
With the right knowledge, the right support, and the right treatment,
Mm-hmm.
you can live a full and meaningful life. Keep learning, keep advocating for yourself, and keep that open dialogue with your healthcare team.
And never underestimate the power of the human spirit to overcome challenges and find joy, even when things are tough.
Rel said, thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the world of microscopic colitis.
My pleasure.
We hope you found it informative
I hope so.
and inspiring.
Me too.
We did.
Yeah.
And remember, we're all in this together. If you're struggling with microscopic colitis,
You're not alone.
you are not alone.
There's help available.
Absolutely. And for our listeners who are interested in learning more
Yes.
about microscopic colitis
Mhm.
or other digestive health topics.
Check out the Center for Digestive Health and Nutrition,
Yes.
their website.
Their website, their social media,
They have so much great information
tons of resources.
to help you on your journey to better gut health.
Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep those guts happy.